Does equal playing time exist in youth soccer? I'm going to answer that question here for you. But quickly, my background. I have 10 years of experience working with 2 years old up to professional players and 10 years specifically in the USU soccer industry as a coach, as a director, and an owner. I've worked with professional players like Luis Nani, Benji Michel, Dom Dwyer, Rohan Texera, many others that have played here in the United States at MLS and also internationally. Now, I will add I don't have every single answer. But what I will say is, I believe that equal playing time does not exist. And there's a multitude of reasons that equal playing time does not exist. And a simple fact is, the first part is, I believe that playing time, especially, should be determined if it's earned, not given. So if you have to hand it out, it's like a participation trophy. Now, children age 6 to 12, there should be baselines. But before I dive into that, I want to ask you a question. If one player on the team plays 90%, but another player on the team plays 50%, did they get equal playing time? And the answer would be no. But going back to the baseline part, I believe that every single player between the ages of 6 to 12, maybe 6 to 10, should have a baseline, a target, a goal of 50% playing time in a match. So that means that they're in the game at least 50% of the time, and they could be out 50% of the time. That, I wouldn't say it's a hard and fast rule, but I believe that it should be the baseline that a player should receive when it comes to games. Now, there will be examples of that not happening. For example, injuries. And I'll give you a personal one. When I was U6, my dad was my grassroots coach. It was recreational. And the whole game I was crying. I don't remember this, by the way, but parents, I was actually talking about this the other day when we were talking about playing time. And I was crying and I didn't want to play. So I did not play that game. So that's just one example. You can come up with hundreds of others, but also counter examples. What I'm simply highlighting is there could be a variety of reasons as to why playing time is not equal. And I don't believe it should be equal anyways, because it should be earned, not given. Now, how can you determine things like baseline or the equal part? Well, a lot of times programs will say we offer equal playing time. Well, that means if somebody's going to offer equal playing time, somebody has to sit there and track every single minute and second to make sure that it's at least very close to even or equal. And I don't believe that's how this works anyways, especially when it comes to competitive sport. I'm not talking about recreational. Recreational, there should be a closer thing to equal playing time. When it comes to competitive, however, I don't think it should be equal. I do think, again, that between 6 to 12, 6 to 10, there should be a baseline of 50% playing time. But that doesn't mean it's equal, because let's say you got 3 players, or let's say it's a 5v5 team, and you have one player that plays 100%, and you're going to assume that's the goalie, but let's say it's not the goalie. Another player that plays 90%. Another player that plays 70%. Another player, player 4, that plays 50%, and then one final player 5, and he plays 60%. Right, so 100, 90, 70%, 50%, and 60%. That's not equal. And you're probably going to say, well, the goalie played 100%. Let's say it wasn't the goalie. It was one player in the field who played the whole game. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm simply highlighting, and I don't like the fact that people say we offer equal playing time. It's not equal. And life is not fair. When children become adults, the real world's different. It's not equal playing time. It's not equal opportunity. I think everybody deserves a chance, but to have equal is not accurate. Now, if you think about it in this perspective, if we can give the baseline to say, baseline 50%, that means the target, the goal for every single player between those age groups of U6 to U10 up to U12 should receive 50%. There will be extreme examples of situations occurring that the child doesn't get that. But let's stop using the word equal, because it's not equal. And the reason why I think it's important to also say, to talk about earned and not given is because life is not fair. And if life is not fair, it's good to start teaching that early. Now, I'm not saying that children shouldn't have fun, they should enjoy it. Of course they need to have fun. Of course they need to enjoy it. But if little Johnny misses the entire week of practice, but then plays equal playing time as a kid that went to the entire practice every single day, the 2 or 3 days a week, is that fair? But life's not fair, so you could do that. But when we're talking about this type of environment, let's create good habits that emphasize or incentivize going to practice. Well, if we say the baseline is 50%, unless you miss practice, then you could have an argument of, well, the baseline is this. However, we're going to give additional playing time to the players that come to practice, that show better in practice, that play better, that train better, whatever circumstances they are. I don't even really care. It's just that let's not say it's equal, because it's not equal. And life is not fair. Some kids, like, for example, Romario, one of the best players ever from Brazil, hated practice, didn't attend practice, but he knew he was going to play. Another example, more recent, Eden Hazard. There's multiple videos of him talking about, I hated training, but you knew he was going to play every Saturday. But it's what he could produce on the field, right? So like that's why I keep highlighting the equal thing. But I still think children should have a baseline. Let's go for the baseline, but don't call it equal, because it's not equal unless you're going to track as a parent or coach. So parent, coach, or coach paid, where you're tracking every single minute up to the second that a kid's playing. Otherwise, it's not equal.